What's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen. Get some.
You know what it feels like when I'm on the road, man? It feels like I'm David Hasselhoff to black people, you know? It does, man. It's like white people got the Hoss and black people got Gary. Like I can have my own Baywatch right now, really could. It'd just be me, and I'd be running the beach in my red swim trunks, you know? But it'd be all black people on my beach, you know? And then somebody would yell out, "Excuse me, are you certified?" Don't worry about it. Nobody's getting in the water anyway. Shit. That'd be the safest beach ever. There'd be no shark attacks on that beach. Because sharks don't bite toes, and that's all that's in the water is toes. Take a picture, Karen. Ooh, a seashell. A seashell. I can hear the ocean. We at the ocean. Shit. Surround sound shell.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen with the Get Some podcast. You can listen to this on iTunes. Search Gary Owen. Hashtag Get Some. Dang, I almost forgot my own podcast. How shitty would that be? Also, look up United We Cast on iTunes. And if you want to see it on YouTube, youtube.com/Gary Owen is my YouTube page. I was in Minnesota at a place called Levity Live, and a blizzard hits. And I'm sorry, it wasn't called Levity Live. It was called, what the hell was it? It was in the Mall of America. Anyways, I was at a comedy club in Minnesota inside the Mall of America. House of Comedy. That's what it's called. House of Comedy. Man, I am starting off shitty today. Anyways, a blizzard hits in the middle of April while I'm at the mall, and like all my shows, like people came out, but I had a lot of tickets sold, but some people couldn't make it. They were snowed in. Like literally, I had people sending me messages on social media saying they couldn't get to my show. I never left the mall. Me and my son came with me, and it was good for us because we got to hang out. And that is a great mall to be stranded in because they got a freaking amusement park in there. They got a movie theater in there. They got just about every type of food you want. Of course, you can go shopping. So to be snowed in, and my hotel was inside the mall, I couldn't pick for a better place to be snowed in for 3 days. And it was cool that my son's at an age, he's 17, where he can go on the road and appreciate just hopefully his dad working. He gets to see me working. And I'm going to ask you guys, when you hear this podcast, now I got a guy that opens for me. And if you see me on the road, his name's Sam. He's an Asian dude. He usually hosts or will feature for me. And my son and him really like connect. Like they're damn near best friends when he's on the road with me. Because I'll say goodnight and they share a room together. And it's funny that people are like, you're going to let them share a room? Because I don't know, they like playing video games and stuff and they goof off. So it's funny because I always get an adjoining room. So I'll have a suite and then they'll be in the room next to me. So I always keep the door unlocked so I can go in and out at any time. But I try to give them a little bit of privacy. I don't want to be like that dad overlooking his son the whole time. And it's funny because I'll go to bed and I'll think that's the end of the night. It might be 1, 2 in the morning. I'll get up the next day and get on Instagram and I'll look at my son and my opener Say's Instagram and they're partying all night. Not with liquor, but I mean, they're ordering room service. They're playing these video games. There's music being played. Say looks like Long Duck Dong from 16 Candles in the middle of the night. His Instagram when he's hanging out with my son. At one point, he had his Instagram story and Say popped up with like a towel wrapped around his head. And they were playing like 80s rock music. And I was just like, was there a party when I go to bed? I mean, is the bash happening once dad's asleep? And I sleep right through it. And I'm in an adjoining room. I don't hear nothing. I don't know what that says about me. I'm worried about what he's doing at home now once I go to bed. But I had a tough week personally because, and I don't want to name any names, but I got 3 full-time employees, basically 3 guys that work with me. And I had to let one of them go. And I won't get into the reasons I had to let him go, but we weren't connecting. There was a lot of tension there. And I think that comes with, in this business, when you're with somebody for so long, and I hope he knows that I really care about him and I want to do well in this business, but it became apparent he doesn't want to be the opener anymore. He wants to be the man. And I get it. I get it. You should want that. But, there was times he would question my authority on the road, and it was leading to some tension. And then I just said, you know what? I got to let him go because I got to see if he really wants to make it in this business. And I really, if he hears this, I hope he knows that I'm rooting for him. And I hope that he knows that, we'll be cool again. Obviously, got to give him a month or two to cool off, because when you get let go, I think it's human nature. You go through all these different ranges of emotions. You go through blame and anger and feel sorry for yourself and why, and then bitter, and there's all kinds of things, because it's like breaking up with somebody when you let somebody go. But I just hope he knows that I am rooting for him. And I hope that in a year or two from now, he'll be headlining and doing his own thing, and hopefully be in TV and some movies and stuff. Because he is a good guy. So, but I had to let him go. I had to let him grow, because I felt like him being on the road with me was stunning his growth. I felt like he was just coasting. And there's nothing worse than somebody just coasting and they realize, oh shit, I'm 50 years old and I'm still coasting through my career. Sometimes you gotta get shocked to your system and you see what you're made of and see if you're meant to be in this business. And I thought about it. When you let somebody go, it's easy to blame and get mad and get bitter, but I've been fired before and I had to sit back and be like, what could I have done differently to get, not to get fired or whatever? I'll tell you an example. I was on a TV show on True TV called Upload with Shaquille O'Neal. And when the show first started, it was just me and Shaq. It was obviously Shaq's show, but I was the co-host, right? Well, once we got picked up, the pilot gets picked up, and then we were going to series, they added another co-host. And me and the other co-host, it's a comedian named Godfrey, we just didn't click. I got nothing bad to say about Godfrey. He's never done me wrong or crossed me, and he's not a bad person. But our personalities just didn't click. And it was tension on set all the time. And we got picked up for season 2, and the producer that hired me he went on to another show. The producer that brought Godfrey in stayed on and got a raise. So he was like basically the showrunner. He was running the show. So he kept Godfrey and got rid of me. So the show that was originally me and Shaq, they bring in a third co-host, and now I get let go because I think he felt the tension between us. And he brought in Godfrey. So of course he's going to choose Godfrey over me. So when I found out I'm not coming back for season 2, and they never say you're fired. They always say we're moving in a different direction or the show's revamping. They come up with something. So they brought in a girl named Rachel Feinstein, and she was now the co-host. And the show that got canceled after season 2. But when I found out I wasn't coming back, immediately I'm like, man, what the fuck? And you go through that, man, screw Godfrey and Shaq and all these other people on the show, and screw True TV, and they don't know talent. That lasts for about a week. And then you stop and you're like, okay, what could I have done differently? What did I do? And then looking back on it, I was more like, you know what? There was tension on the set. And I can't really say Godfrey did anything wrong. He wasn't late for work. He wasn't trying to go behind my back and throw me under the bus or do anything like that. It was just our personalities didn't mesh. And I think people felt that on set. And the producer if my producer would have stayed and the guy that brought Godfrey in would have left, I'm sure I would have been the one that stayed and Godfrey would have left. But it didn't work out like that. It happens in his business. Looking back on it, yeah. I mean, I almost was glad I was relieved when it was all said and done, because, yeah, you want the money and you want to be on TV, but you also want to enjoy going to work. And I wasn't enjoying going to work. And, so I'm sure when I got I'm sure Godfrey, if you interviewed him, he'd feel the same way. He'd say the same thing. And he probably, when he found out I wasn't coming back, he was probably like, whoo, it's just, sometimes your personalities just don't mesh. I've been fired, so I know what it feels like. And I don't even want to say I fired this guy that works for me. I just want to say I had to let him go because I was pushing him to push himself in a way. And the only way I was going to push him was be like, dude, you got to go do your own thing. You got to get out there and do your own thing and grind. And, I hate when people say that we grind and you grind in this business, but it is a grind. It's a hell of a grind in stand up. And I hope he knows that I am rooting for him for real. All right. Well, let's get into the Starbucks fiasco. Everybody knows Philadelphia. Two black guys were sitting in Starbucks. They walk in. They ask to use the restroom. One of them asked to use the restroom. The manager says you have to be a paying customer to use the restroom. So he goes back down and sits down. They're waiting on another guy to show up to have a meeting. And the manager calls the cops. And and then the cops come. They take the two black guys away in handcuffs for no apparent reason. And then they let them go. Obviously, no charges was filed. But now Starbucks is going to be closed May 29th. I didn't realize this. I didn't know there was 8,000 Starbucks all over the country and 175,000 employees. That's crazy. That's not even counting how many Starbucks are in other countries. Because I've been to Japan, I've been to Dubai, I've been to Germany, I've been to England. There's Starbucks everywhere. I've never been to Antarctica, but if there ever is a place for a Starbucks, it should be in Antarctica. That cold ass continent. But that's 175,000 employees and 88,000 Starbucks just in the United States. I can't even imagine Canada, Mexico, and then everywhere, and then all over the world. But they're going to close down May 29th. If I'm Dunkin' Donuts or I'm the Coffee Bean, I am having a fucking sale of sales on May 29th. I'm going to be like, buy one cup, get one free, get a free donut, something. I'm going to make sure we get all that business. And you want them to come back. If I'm Dunkin' Donuts, I got my best coffee on May 29th. The Coffee Bean, I got my best coffee. We need fresh beans. And we need to take our time making people's coffee today because we want them coming back. The amount of money Starbucks is going to lose on that one day for racial sensitivity training, I can't even imagine. And the amount that other coffee shops are going to make because of it. All because one manager overreacted. Obviously, it's a racial thing. But more so than that, I think it's just someone who had a power trip. Some of these managers, man, in different aspects. And I saw when I was a cop in the Navy, I saw a lot of guys that had a badge and looked like they might have been picked on their whole life. And now they're going to pay everybody back. But I looked at it as a power trip. Like, I'm going to show you guys who's running things in this Starbucks. And now that I saw the guys get interviewed, and now the police chiefs has come out and apologized, said they handled it wrong in Philly. Those guys said they were in that Starbucks less than 10 minutes when this happened, and they were waiting on somebody to come. And I made a post on my Instagram where I said, I've been to numerous Starbucks. I've had great interactions with Black people, Latino people, Asian people, baristas of all nationalities. And as many times have I gone into Starbucks and not bought something, because there's a Starbucks right by my daughter's school that I've sat in numerous times. And I had 30 minutes to kill. So I said, I'm going to go sit in Starbucks and wait for her. And I might text my daughter and be like, meet me at Starbucks, because it's that close to the school she could walk. And I won't order anything until she gets there. And sometimes when she gets there, I still won't order anything. Or I'll ask her, does she want something? And she might say no, and then we leave. Never been asked to leave. Not one time. And obviously, I like to say it's because I'm white, but I just think it's the area I'm in. And I will say, the two Black guys that got arrested, the way they conducted themselves is not being spoken about enough. They didn't raise their voice. They didn't start cussing. They didn't start blaming it on their race, which obviously that was the issue. They just calmly got in the cuffs, got escorted out. And now you see how the country is on their side completely. And those that aren't are just those people that are looking for drama just any place they can get it. Because those guys just got handcuffed, real calm, walked out, and now they're going to get paid for sure. But But that isn't brought up enough of how these guys they were not in control, but in control of the situation. They were completely not in control as far as the cops putting them in cuffs and that manager calling, but they made sure they were about their wits. Like, is this worth it to yell and cause a fuss right now when the cops coming into a situation that they don't really know what's going on? We don't know what that manager said, honestly, on the phone or when the cops got there. But I just want to applaud those two guys for how they handled it. And now they're going to get compensated accordingly. There was another incident at a LA Fitness somewhere in New York. And a black guy came in he was a member of LA Fitness, and he had brought his buddy and gave him a guest pass, which isn't uncommon at most gyms. And they were just playing basketball. And one of the front desk ladies came in and was like, yo, you guys, you can't be here. You're not members. The guy's like, I'm a member. And she goes, no, you're not. And like, they get in this power struggle. Then when she shows him he's a member, when he shows her he's a member, she still calls the cops. And the cops show up, and the cops even looked at the manager of the LA Fitness like, why did you call us? He's a member here. What? I don't get it. One of the black guys started taping the lady at the front desk, and you could tell by her face, it's eating at her like, these motherfuckers are right. I was out of line. But she can't bring it to herself just to apologize and say, I was wrong. She just assumed two black guys hooping in the gym aren't members. They're getting kicked out. And when she found out one was a member, she couldn't bring herself to just, damn, I fucked up. She had to work it out in her brain that she was right. We're going to call the cops. And even the cops showed up like, why are we here? There was no reason to call us. Absolutely none. If the guy's a member. And it's funny because T.I. was making a big thing about we got to boycott all the Starbucks. And it's the thing. Me and T.I. are always cool. And the good thing about T.I. is you don't have to agree with him, and he'll have a discussion with you. Trust. He is not afraid to voice his opinion. And people were trying to like pit me against T.I. because I said I don't want to jump to conclusions and say this is a nationwide problem with Starbucks. I said, I think it's a problem with that manager more so than Starbucks because I've had such good interactions with people at Starbucks. And people were like, well, T.I. wants everyone to boycott Starbucks till they make it right. But obviously, people rallying like they did and stand outside that Starbucks and people calling for a boycott, it worked because now Starbucks is going to close May 29th for racial sensitivity training. So even me going on Instagram and saying I wouldn't rush to judgment on all Starbucks, T.I. and other celebrities and just the general public that said we got to boycott Starbucks, it obviously worked. Because now Starbucks is like, whoa, we got to make sure our employees don't jump to conclusions like this. And I've always said in my brain, I said, if I ever go to Starbucks and ask to use the restroom and they say, no, you got to buy something, I've always had my answer ready. Like, do you know how much money I spend here? Do you know how much money I spend at Starbucks yearly? And you're not going to let me use the bathroom this one time? You know how many times I've come in here and not used the bathroom? Man, because I'll be the first to admit, I have dropped some bombs in some Starbucks bathrooms in my day. Because one, coffee helps the colon flow, I'll say. and Starbucks bathrooms are always private. It's not like a stall. It's a door you lock and you're by yourself in that. Oh, I've shut it down before. I've shut it down so bad in Starbucks a few times, I don't come out for a few minutes. I got to let this scent go away for a second. And I'd be looking for air fresheners in the Starbucks too. I'm like, or I'll wash my hands with soap and try to squirt soap around the bathroom a little bit. Try to get a soapy smell and take it out. I mean, there's been times I've dropped bombs in Starbucks bathrooms that I just left. I was going to get coffee. I went to a different Starbucks to get my coffee. Like I'm going to go to a different one. So I am going to spend money, but just not at this particular one because I didn't want anybody in that Starbucks to see me coming out of that bathroom and say, that's the dude right there. So honestly, I should have been asked to leave a few Starbucks. And this is a side note with Starbucks. I don't think it's a problem with the 175,000 employees and the 8,000. I don't think it's a problem like that. Like it's taught. I just think it's the area you're in, the interactions you have with certain people, and the managers that you hire. You just got to make sure. And for me, I think I always have a soft spot for Starbucks because, and this is kind of off base, but when my brother, when we drove him to rehab, there's a Starbucks right on the way to Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I see it every time I go to Louisville, Kentucky. I always, for some reason, I always stop at that same Starbucks, but it was a Starbucks that me and my mom stopped at. And we just sat outside and talked for like an hour after we dropped my brother off at rehab. And just for that reason, every time I go by Starbucks or I stop, it reminds me. And when every time I go to that I always drive by that Starbucks and when I'm on my way to Louisville or anywhere down south, and I always stop there because it's always a good memory for me. So I think that's why I didn't want to rush to, we got to boycott Starbucks and everything. But hey, those people that did say that and voiced their opinion like that, it worked because now Starbucks is shutting down May 29th. And I don't think it's going to end the problem completely because this is just one incident that got caught on tape. I'm sure there's numerous others, And on another note, outside of Starbucks, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina right now as we speak. This morning, I got to my hotel where I couldn't check in. I said, I'm going to go get some breakfast. So I went to this place called the Morning Times. And it's a coffee shop, but they serve breakfast, but it really is just a coffee shop. And there was a black guy in there, looked homeless. I don't know if he's homeless or not. Looked like life hasn't done him a great hand. He looked a little rough. And he was begging people for money in this place called the Morning Times, this coffee shop. And this one guy, I don't know if it was a barista or a little food runner, he comes out and he's very firm with the guy. He goes, "Hey, man, you can't be begging for money in here, man. We don't do that." He said, "You thirsty? You want something to drink? You want some water?" And the guy's like, yeah, I'll take some water. And he went back and got him some water in a cup and gave it to him. Now, granted, it was a cup of water. Some people might be like, well, they should have given him some food, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the guy was in there and he was making it uncomfortable for the patrons because he's begging for money and people were in there like trying to get their morning started. But the guy, I mean, he made him leave, obviously, and told him he couldn't do that, but he still treated him like a human being. And he still treated him with dignity and respect, even though he was most likely homeless. I can't say for sure, but he looked homeless. But still, to that barista / food runner, he didn't just be like, "Get out. You ain't gonna be begging in our stores. Don't come back here ever again." He just went, "Hey, man, you can't be doing that in our store." And then he offered him something to drink, some water. And it's water, but it's still, the guy took it and said, "Thank you." And it was just a decent little interaction between two people. And it showed me after the Starbucks incident, the LA Fitness, that's how you treat people. That's how you're supposed to do it. Yeah, you can't be in there begging for money, but I still know you're a human being. And I still recognize you're probably going through a hard time. So I'm not just going to just act like I'm better than you and you don't mean anything. And I was glad I got to see that. And I love how I'll make a post about that on social media and just say, I saw something cool today. And then 90% of the comics will be cool. And then you always got those few people. What'd you do? Did you buy him some food? Why didn't you get him some coffee? Or just negative shit. Or they'll say, "This ain't the same as Starbucks, Gary." And I'm like, I never said it was the same as Starbucks. I was saying I saw something cool today. And with all the bad news we're seeing of how coffee shops are treating people, I thought this was a good one. But you got those people just negative. Speaking of negative, I've had fun with my interactions this past week over some people are still not letting go of that little sketch me and my wife did about Michael Blackson and saying the N-word. And let me be very clear about this. It's a sketch. It's not real. So when you see a sketch like that and you take it back to slavery days and black people getting hung in trees and stuff like that, I'm like, I've been looking at people like this. Somebody made a comment and it made sense to me. We often like to think as racist as white people to black people. But there are black people that are racist towards white people out there. And I'm starting to see that with some of these posts. There's a guy who he acts like all white people are bad. but he's acting like he's pro-black. And I'm like, you're not pro-black. You're anti-everything but black. And then if a black person doesn't have the same opinion as you, you start calling them all kinds of derogatory names that I'm not allowed to say. And I'm looking at him like this. You're the problem. You are the problem, dude. And, I mean, you're looking at a sketch. Like, were you offended when Dave Chappelle dressed up as a Klan member? Was you offended at that? Okay. No, because it was a sketch. It was funny. But I'm going not back and forth. I'll just make one comment. And then this guy did a whole YouTube page on me and like talked about it. And he took everything I said. It clearly was a joke. And he made it into something else. And I love it when they say I'm the racist one. I'm the white supremacist. And this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to infiltrate the black community by marrying a black woman, having kids by her. And it's to get off my white supremacy ways. I'm like, do you know how idiotic that fucking sounds? And there's people that co-sign them. There's people that are like, yeah. I mean, like, you idiots. You guys are fucking idiots. It's no different than the people that watch Fox News and eat that up. That rhetoric. It's just all this propaganda and people eat it up. And this dude went on a YouTube page and had like this, act like he was a newscaster. And he's got these followers to the point where he said, now let me show you numbers. And I'll give him credit. He's got a good tech team because his tech shit is on point. So the guy goes, well, Garrett Owen has over 200,000 Twitter followers. I have a little over 10,000. He said, why is it when Gary Owen made a comment to me, he only got 3 retweets? But when I made a comment to him, I got 19 retweets. Why did I get more retweets than him? And he goes, you know why? Because Gary Owen has fake followers. He goes, that's sad, Gary Owen, that you have to buy followers. I go, I never bought followers in my life. I was like, he went off one comment he made and one comment I made. And his got 19 and mine got 3. I was like, your 10,000 Twitter followers are probably a little more passionate because they're all think like you. And I bet you there ain't nothing positive ever on your page. Then I heard a podcast. This is not bother me, but there was a podcast and I thought they're like 5 comics out of Atlanta. And I thought they were going to be on my side, honestly, because as comedians, we know a joke's a joke. I don't get offended by anything anybody says. You could say something about my wife, my kids. And when it's in the context of stand-up, I've opened myself up to that when I chose to be a stand-up. If you're not a stand-up, yeah, you might be a little sensitive. But I check everything at the door when it comes to stand-up. But these 5 comedians, they went in, start calling my wife a bed wench. One guy was like, I don't give a shit, man. I know some comics won't stand up because they don't want to miss out on work because you never know when Gary Owen come to town, he might want you to be on the show with him. He goes, but I don't give a shit. My career's going great without him. And then he goes, starts going in on me and how that was offensive and I took it too far. And I'll be looking at these guys like, dude, you in the wrong line of work. We're stand-ups, man. We're supposed to make the uncomfortable comfortable. I'll give you an example. My brother dies of a heroin overdose. Saturday Night Live does a whole sketch on heroin and how it keeps you up and you can get cheap labor and people working all day and he was able to pick up the kids and all this other stuff. And when I saw it, I didn't laugh. But I didn't laugh because it hit home for me too close. But I wasn't mad at SNL. I knew they didn't write that sketch to dig at me and dig at my brother. It's just, and honestly, if my brother would have been alive, he would have laughed at it. He would have laughed at that sketch on SNL because he'd be like, that's how I act. That's what I do. But I didn't take offense to it. And then I go to speak at one of these heroin rallies and somebody brought it up to me. They said, how did you feel about that SNL sketch? And I could tell the lady that asked me the question wanted me to be like, they were out of line. It was too much. And I didn't give her the answer she wanted. I just basically said what I said to you. I go, I wasn't offended by it. I said, because if my brother was alive, he would have probably laughed at it because he would have said, I act like that. And I knew they didn't make the sketch to dig on me and my brother. I said, it was just heroin addicts have some peculiar behavior and they do they go to great extremes to get the heroin. And I got it. I seen it. I wasn't mad about it, but I think that's the same thing when these five comics, I wasn't mad at them. I was more disappointed. Like, dude, you're stand-ups. You're comedians, man. And what pissed me off most, the only thing that pissed me off was they accused me of stealing the bit. That's what pissed me off. Because the thing I did with my wife was a bit I used to do in my stand-up act years ago, probably 6 years ago. It was actually on one of my comedy specials called True Story. I think the LOL network has it now if you want to find it. But it's on my YouTube page. Go to youtube.com/GaryOwenCom and go down, and it says how Gary Owen gets away with saying the N-word. And it's on there. But I wrote that joke. Here's how the joke came about. I was at the Improv in LA on Melrose. A guy was heckling me, and me and him was going back and forth. And I said, oh, if I was black, I would call you the N-word right now. And the crowd chuckled. And then some people in the crowd were like, say it, man. You could say it. Say that shit. You could say it. I said, nah, I ain't get my ass kicked. And the crowd was laughing. So then D. Ray Davis comes on stage, and he said it for me. We start going back and forth. And that's where the joke came about. That's where it originated. And that was probably, I bet you, 2009, 2008. And I put the joke to bed. I didn't start saying it. And then somebody brought up to me, it's like, you should do that joke. You and D-Ray did that one time. I was like, all right, I'll try it. But you just got to get the right black person on stage with you to say it, because some comics want to take the shine away and they'll mess it up. But I used to do it on stage all the time as my closer for about a year. And then there was this thing called Chocolate Sundays on Showtime. It was a sketch comedy show. And this guy named Bill Dawes, he's the white guy. And then there was two black guys in the sketch with them. And they did basically my bit verbatim. They just didn't do it in a stand-up. They did it as a sketch on stage. Because Bill Dawes is a white dude, and he was this black guy comes goes, you got my money. And then Bill and him go back and forth. And he says, no, I ain't got your money. And the black guy says the N-word. And I was just like, they stole it. So I called the producer of the show, Pookie Wigginton. I called Pookie, and me and Pookie's always been cool. I said, Pookie, what's up with the N-word sketch on Chocolate Sundays? I said, you know that's my joke. He goes, nah, G, I didn't know that was your joke. I said, Pookie, you've seen me do it. And then he was like, nah, man. I said, well, who wrote it then? Tell me who wrote the joke, and I'll call them. He goes, well, we don't really have a joke writer, so to speak. He goes, we have a think tank, and we sit in a circle. I said, well, who brought the idea? And he goes, I'm not sure who said it first. I said, Pookie, so right now you're telling me you have a sketch on Showtime, and you don't know who wrote it. So if you have a sketch that goes viral and it's like people go nuts, nobody gets the credit? I said, that sounds stupid. And I told him, I said, you're insulting my intelligence right now by telling me that. I said, Pookie, you guys could have called me and asked, and I would have said yes. The only thing I would have said was make sure it says sketch based on a joke by Gary Owen. That's all they had to say. They could have said it at the beginning of the show, the end of the show. I don't care. Just give me my credit. I would have let you guys do it. I wasn't doing the joke anymore. But what I was getting at was the five guys that did the podcast, they're talking about I stole the bit. They said, yeah, that bit he did with his wife, he stole that bit from Bill Dawes, who did it on Chocolate Sundays. And I go, you motherfuckers. There's a lot of things you can call me this business, but I am not a joke thief, and I take that shit personal. I'll tell you, I don't let people open up for me if they start stealing jokes. If you go on stage and do a stock joke or jokes that I've heard before, I'll call you on it. And if you do it again, I can't work with you. That's happened a few times in my career. I've got guys that I thought was going to be my openers, and I let them go because I was just like, nah, they're hacky. So if they're going to steal somebody they don't know, they're clearly going to take something of mine. No doubt, if I'm getting last to see it firsthand. So that happened to me one time on stage. A guy did my joke in front of me. He was hosting, and I was at the Columbus Funny Bone probably, over 10 years ago. And I did a joke and nobody laughed. And I had the crowd going too. I said, what the hell just happened? They go, the host did that joke. And I brought the host on stage. And I said, where's he at? And he was in the bar. So the host comes on stage. He looked like a lost puppy. I said, hey, man, where'd you hear that joke? Where'd you write that joke at? He goes, huh? I said, I'm not sitting here going to say you stole that joke because I told him what joke I just told. I said, I'm saying you didn't write it. So who told you the joke? I tried to give him an out. He said a guy at his job told him the joke. And so he thought it was okay. And then later on, he tried to act like, nah, I just said that because I didn't want to start an argument. But nah, that's my joke. Like, I took it from him. Like, really? Really? He was at the bar, like probably holding court with some girls. I said, bring his ass on stage. I said, I ain't saying you stole the joke. I'm just saying you ain't write it. So who wrote the joke? He tried to say somebody at his job gave it to him. I was like, this dude. Now, with that, if you're listening to this, you can comment on my YouTube page or reach me on social media. My son wrote a joke for my opener Say. And I want to know if anybody's ever heard it before. Because I started cracking up when I heard it. But then my wife said, you sure he didn't get that off the internet? I was like, I don't know. I never heard the joke. So I just assumed my son wrote it because he's my son. He's got to be brilliant like his daddy. So he told Say, now Say's an Asian guy and my son's mixed. He told Say, tell the audience you don't date white girls that used to date black guys because it's like loaning your fat friend your sweater and then them giving it back. It's not going to fit anymore. I was walking them on. I lost it. I go, oh God, you know how funny that is? And Say goes, yeah, your son told me the joke. And I go, Austin, did you write that? He goes, yeah. And then I asked him again, I said, did you really write that? He goes, yeah, I wrote it. He's holding his guns like he wrote it. So I don't know. So if you heard that joke before, let me know. And let me know where you heard it and who you heard it from. But if not, hey, my son wrote the joke. You know what I mean? And I've been thinking, he might be writing jokes. The dude might be a beast. Might be like his daddy. Now with Starbucks and the LA Fitness and the good story about the morning times here in Raleigh, I do want to say it brings me to my crazy stepdad story. And I remember talking about restaurants and people acting crazy. We went to Florida twice in my life. Like we drove down to Florida when I was 10, and then we went again when I was 15. And we would stay in Cocoa Beach both times. But we'd always drive. And I remember thinking Florida was so freaking far because for some reason it would take us 3 days. I don't know why. With everybody else, it takes a day. It took us 3. And I remember we was in St. Augustine, and we stopped first we went through a McDonald's. So you got my mom, my stepdad, and 4 kids in the car. And we ordered burgers and hamburgers. And I remember distinctly them saying like $25 was our bill. And my stepdad pulled out and was like, we ain't paying that much for McDonald's, and got out of line. I was like, what the hell? So whoever was behind us got our food and probably got a bill, because this is probably before cameras wasn't all the McDonald's drive-through lines. So we go to a sit-down place, and I ordered French toast. And literally, I think they took a piece of bread and cut it. And then I ate it and asked my mom, can I get some more French toast? I'm still hungry. And my stepdad yelled at me at the top of his lungs, well, God damn it, you should order some more food then. I was like, I didn't know I would just get one piece of bread. I thought it would come with sides or something like that. So, and I wanted to be like, hey, motherfucker, I wasn't talking to you. But he yelled at the top of his lungs in a restaurant. And I just like sunk. Like literally, if you looked at our table, I looked like Mr. Head Detective from Living Color. It was just my head sticking over the table because I was so embarrassed that he just yelled at me for no damn reason. All I did was ask, can I order some more food? I didn't know you weren't supposed to ask for food, I guess. I didn't know the French toast was literally a piece of bread. That's all it was. They cut a piece of bread in half and put some powdered sugar on it, some butter and syrup. And I was like, I'm still starving here. So anyways, yeah, I never asked them for food after that the rest of my life. Nothing. We used to buy 2 liters of soda, and I wasn't ever allowed to drink soda like that. So whenever I would go to bed, I would open the fridge up and I'd take the soda and take like 2 gulps and then put it back. And then I'd do the same thing with the milk. I'd drink the milk right out of the carton. And I almost felt like Suge Avery in The Color Purple. Now, I didn't piss in anything, but I damn sure got some backwash in that shit. So I ever took it straight from the jug. Like, I ain't pouring no glass, bitch. So, but Anyways, upcoming tour dates. May 3rd to the 5th, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska at the Funny Bone. And then May 10th to the 12th, brand new comedy club in Bridgeport, Connecticut called the Stress Factory. I'm there week 2. Jim Brewer's opening up the first week. I'm coming in week 2, Bridgeport, Connecticut, May 10th to the 12th at the Stress Factory. And then listen, May 18th to the 20th, I'm going to be in Philadelphia. That's the week before the Starbucks shutdown. I might go to that same Starbucks and see what kind of service I get. I bet you it's different than the black. I might just sit there and see if they make me leave. All right, y'all. This is another episode. I'll see you guys next week on Gary Owen, #GetSome.